Got it all. So we're online?
We are.
Okay, we're good to go. Okay, we're going to resolve into committee of the whole. Recommendation that council resolve itself into the committee of the whole at the time 1 minute after 5. I need a mover. Council Malmas, Councilor Bushel, all in favor? Carry. All right, the first thing on the agenda is the 2022 financial plan presentation. Kelly, you have the floor.
Great. Okay, I will. Just give me a moment here. Okay. God, I almost look like her. Coincidentally. So, hello, everyone. My name is Kelly Bennett, and I'm delighted to present the financial plan for the District of Sycamoose for the 2022 year. We're going to start talking about some guidelines and factors, then we're going to talk about some highlights. What does this mean to us financially? I'll do an overview and then next steps. And this graph here is the way we want our reserves to look, the way we want our grants to go, the way our MRDT money is going to go. So we're going to point upwards. So for starters, budget guidelines. So budgets, what's a budget? It's pretty easy. It's an estimate of income expenses for a set period of time. And why do we need a budget? To help us guide long-term goals, objectives, and to help plan, organize, track, and improve the financial situation for the District of Sycamoose. In addition, it's to establish our tax rates, our water rates, and our sewer rates. And additionally, as a municipality, it is a requirement under Section 165 of the Community Charter to do a budget. Frequently, we will ask, is that in your budget? They're very important. Guidelines. So what do we keep in mind while preparing the budget? Well, the budget must support our infrastructure master plans, which really says what capital projects do we have to do and when do we have to do them in terms of infrastructure, roads, water, and sewer. It must support our revenue, tax, and budget policy, our fees and charges bylaw, as well as council's strategic priorities. So here's a list of council's 18 strategic priorities for the year, not for the year, for the term. And it's really important in order to achieve these priorities, finances and resources need to be allocated to them or they won't be achieved. So they're very important when preparing the budget. Other factors that are important are reserves. Do we have enough money? Right now, our annual contribution to our general fund is $620,000 a year. So the general fund is our taxes basically and all of our general services. That is within our policy range, which is between 10 to 15% of our tax revenue. So we're good there. Our sewer fund, we're contributing $233,000 this year, which is within our policy range, which is 20 to 30% of our sewer revenues. And our water fund, I'm happy to report, is about $263,000 for 2022, which is also within our policy range of 20 to 30% of water revenues. Last year, our water fund wasn't within our range, and we've been working diligently to get our water fund where it needs to be. So I'm happy to report that I think we have enough for now. Yep.
Would you like to just comment, please, Kelly, on the idea that the sewer and water fund have nothing to do with the tax fund, but the line above?
Yeah, correct. So actually I've added a little, because you had mentioned that previously, I've added another little point to this about funds. And that's also a factor, is that even though we talk about them together, each fund, the district has 3 operating funds, a general, a sewer, and a water, and the money doesn't mingle. So they're completely different pots of money, and the water revenue is used for water expenses, and same with the sewer and the tax revenue. Unless there's a special parcel tax for debt payment, that's the only time they commingle. Otherwise, everything is completely separate. Another important factor is grants. For the District of Sycamoose, I can't emphasize enough how important grants are. So for 2022, we have budgeted 950,000 in operating grants alone. So this equates to over a 20% tax savings. To achieve the same things that we would need to do, we'd have to increase taxes by 20%. But we have operating grants, so we don't need to. In addition, for 2022, our capital grants are over 2.8 million, which represents 41% of our total capital costs. So grants are important. Yeah, you're good? Okay, awesome. Hold on, I've got to admit somebody here.
Oh, sorry.
And then taxes, what is the impact? A 1% tax increase generates about $46,000 for the municipality and costs the average homeowner just under $17 per year. And then, like I mentioned before, funds, each fund is separate, monies are never mixed, and that's something we need to keep in mind. In addition, the world, what are our current market conditions? Specifically this year, inflation is ridiculous. It's on the rise. In February, inflation rose to 5.7%, and this is comparing this February to last February. It's a 30-year high. There's clearly significant supply chain issues, climate change, natural disasters, wars, labor and housing shortages, and then, of course, there's COVID. So lots of fun things that do have an impact on the District of Sycamores finances, which need to be considered when preparing the budget. Okay, after all that fun stuff, we can talk about actually some fun stuff, some highlights. What are some project highlights? So one is what we are investing in. I wish I could make this move. Roads and bridges. So in 2022, we're investing 1.5 million. The majority of that is for the completion of the Solsqua-Sycamoose Bridge, which we are budgeting to spend an additional 1.2 million this year, and another 300,000 on various storm works. Get the drainage right for Kerr Road, Young Street, and Bayview. Okay. And then health and wellness. The District of Sycamores is heavily investing in health and wellness. The Shuswap Healing Center, the capital costs, we have a Class D estimate of 7.9 million, which is primarily funded from grants, 81% of it. And the project costs are spanned over a 2-year period. So 2.4 million in 2022. And the remainder of 5.5 million in 2023 with an estimated construction start date in fall of 2022. So that's the capital cost of the healing center. And then we move on to the actual operations of our community health center, which we just took on last June. So this year in 2022, we budgeted for about $812,000 of MSP revenue from the medical clinic. This is a big increase from our original budget for 2022, which was 340. So last year, this time, we thought in 2022, we'd make 340, but now we're at 812, meaning the doctors are seeing patients, which is what we want, right? People are being served. Overall, there is a deficit for the medical center, and it ranges over the 5 years between 129 to 150. And for the next 4 years, it's all funded from operating grants, and in the 5th year, it's partially funded from operating grants. So that's health and wellness. Then parks and recreation, which is a little bit more fun. So I threw some pictures on here. So we're going to complete and redo the pathways in Beach Park, add some new ones and redo the existing ones. And we have a new play structure we are purchasing and installing, which should be in late spring, maybe early summer before Canada Day. And then we're investing in some of our boat launches, Capel and Finlayson. We've got 100K for some design work so we can do construction in future years. We're also investing in a bike trail development in Owl's Head for 120,000. And then something that's kind of new this year is a pump track at Finlayson Park. So in 2022, we have 20,000 in the budget for design and 350 for the actual capital construction in 2023. So something not as exciting as parks is our water and sewer, but it's very important still. We're investing 640,000 in capital costs for water and sewer. 350 for the wastewater treatment plant upgrade completion, which I will be happy when that's done. That project has been ongoing since I think 2014. So they almost pulled our funding from us because they were wondering if we were going to get it done, but I think we'll get there. And then another 285,000 for some lift station and pump replacements, as well as some prep work for some water line upgrades in the future. And there's much more. We're really busy. We are working on an active transportation network plan, construction of a bioheat facility in the industrial park this year. We're working with Habitat for Humanity on affordable housing project. We're working with the regional district on the development of the rail trail. We're doing fire mitigation work and acquiring engine 5 replacement. We're looking at a boundary expansion. And of course, we're investing in economic development, tourism, and MRDT. There's much more, but these are just some of the highlights that we're busy working on. So the cost, how much does this cost us? So the average homeowner can expect to pay the District of Sicamous $7 a day in 2022. This is for all services. This is for water, sewer, and municipal services. Change from last year. So if we take a look at what the changes from last year, we're proposing a 3.67% tax increase, which represents about $62 for an average homeowner. So an average homeowner, the assessment value has increased 39% to approximately $491,000. So if your tax assessment went up about 39%, you can expect to pay 3.67% more in your municipal tax bill. If it went down less than 39%, then you will pay less than a 3.67% tax increase. So this is based on the average increase of residential assessment. And the reason for the increase is a combination of many things. The additional services we're offering, we're doing more bylaw, more building inspection. We have medical services, daycare services, more administration costs. It's not, and then there's inflation and goods and supplies and contracts. So there's not one thing driving the increase. It's an accumulation of multiple factors. In addition, there's an increase to the average water bill, increasing to $440 a year for water. And this is due to a 10 cents per cubic meter increase in the water, in water consumption. And then the sewer increase is about 1%. So if you add all those up together, it's about $86 per year increase for all the services in 2022, which works out to about 23 cents a day. And the total, the $7 a day works out to just under $2,500 a year. So $788 for water and sewer for an average household, and just over $1,700 for municipal taxes. So that's the breakdown of that. And you can feel free to calculate your own taxes. Residential is $357 for every $100,000 of assessment value. And if you own a business, it's $825 for every $100,000 of assessment value. Jot that down. Perfect. Unfortunately, there's more. Municipal taxes make up only 57% of your total annual property tax bill. And as you can see, there's a lot of other entities here that we have very little control over what we get charged. We collect the charges on behalf of the regional district, the North Okanagan Hospital, the library, the BC assessment, and school taxes, which is essentially the province, which is the next biggest chunk here. We could collect them on their behalf and we pay it to them, but we actually have no control over that. We have control over this 57%. And then there's the plan. So this is the budget. I know it's a work of art. Everybody sees the numbers and this is what they do. I know, because I can see it in their faces. So instead of looking at that, we'll look at a few little charts that explain it in a nice graph format. So revenues, our revenues are 12.6 million, of which property taxes is our number one, and the second is grants. Once again, grants are important. They form 31% of our total revenue. That's huge. Last year, it was 44%. It was even more than property taxes. That really, and this is a combination of operating and capital grants, but I mean, that's very significant. A lot of resources go into A, getting grants, and B, the paperwork associated with following up on grants, but it helps us achieve things that we would not be able to achieve without them. And then the third highest is water and sewer revenues at about 1.9 million. So between our property taxes, grants, and water and sewer revenues, that's about $11 million, or just under 90% of our total revenue is up here. And then we have a few other smaller bits. Sale of services, this 1.2 million, this includes the 800,000 of the medical service revenue in here. And then we move on to our expenses, which are a little bit more evenly distributed. General government has the highest at 1.7 million, but our second highest, which is a huge increase over last year, is our health and welfare, because this is all the costs for operating the medical clinic, for the daycare building, but mainly the medical clinic, which we acquired only partway through the year. Of our 8.1 million, that represents 15% of the total cost. Something I wanted to point out here is the difference between the water services and the sewer services. So as you can see, water costs just under $1 million to operate, whereas sewer costs about 700,000. So your water bill will be more than your sewer bill because the cost to operate water is more than sewer. So the average water is $440, whereas the average sewer annually is $348. And we don't put tons in, but we do put money into economic development, and this is more than we had in the past. So we put 240,000 into economic development and tourism for the community. And last but not least is our capital expenses for this year. We're budgeting 6.8 million for capital. And once again, health services was right up there, 2.3 million. And this is primarily due to the Shuswap Healing Center construction, followed by roads, bridges, and equipment. And then general government, that million is primarily the bioheat facility, which is, I think, 95% grant funded. So that's another one that we wouldn't be able to do unless we had grant funds. And with that, I'm just going to highlight what next steps are. Later today, there is the budget, the financial plan bylaw, which is scheduled for 3 readings, adoption at the next council meeting, and then we must pass our tax rates bylaw prior to May 15th. Will be at the May 11th meeting. And with that, I'm open for questions from the public and or council.
Questions from council or first? Go ahead, Gord.
No questions, just let you know, Kelly, you did a fabulous job as usual. Thank you very much for looking after us.
Thank you.
Any comments from the
None online.
online?
Question about the difference between the revenues and expenses. Notice under sewer and water, there's surpluses of 114 in sewer and 128 in water. And I did write a letter and I sent it in and dropped it off here. I don't know if any.
Ralph?
Yes.
It's on the agenda today.
Okay.
Yes. Yes, it is on the agenda today.
Okay.
We will be talking about it later on.
Okay.
Yeah, but still ask your questions about, sir, are you talking about last year's financial statements?
Well, this year's, what you're showing there should be a surplus of 114,000. If you separate the difference between revenue and expenses, you figure out there's 128,000 in water revenue surplus and 114,000 surplus in sewer.
So those items don't include our transfers to reserves, which are on a totally separate, like it's like putting it into a savings account.
Okay.
So the expenses here for sewer don't include the money that we collect and we move into reserves for future capital expenses.
Okay.
So that's why there will be a difference. No, and I'm looking forward to our discussion later about utilities.
Okay.
Any more questions?
That's okay, we're gonna talk about.
Okay.
The letter I popped off.
Fine.
Yeah.
You good? Councils? Good.
Good job, Kelly.
Great job. So we'll move on, but before we move on, Kelly, you just do an amazing job. Tell you where this community is very, very fortunate to have you. Honestly,
Thank you, Terry.
great. Short-term rentals, Councillor Bushel, recommendation of the committee of the whole be scheduled for April 6, 2022. Consider proposed regulation for short-term rentals and seek further public input. I need a mover. Councillor Bushel, Councillor Anderson, and now comments. Gordy, go ahead.
Chair, thank you. Yeah, I just been fielding a lot of questions over short-term rentals and a lot of the people that have short-term rentals, there's a lot of them that don't live in the community and didn't really hear about the meetings that we had last year. They missed them for whatever reason. And it's just a hot topic. So I just thought I'd reach out and see if the, council has an appetite to just have like a workshop, a little bit of a workshop ourselves, because, we've just been handed our short-term bylaw from our staff and just because we're the ones that are going to have to, if anybody's running again for council, is going to have to take the brunt of it this fall and because there's a lot of, people that are a little bit upset that we're going to put this in. I feel we have to put it in. I do. I think it's a great thing for the community. I think we need short-term rentals, but I also think it has to be regulated. I think council should have a little bit more input. That's just my thought.
All right. Other comments or questions? Councillor Malmus, go ahead.
Staff put in a lot of time and energy. We had 3 open houses.
I think we had 2, an online open house and in-person open house specifically for short-term rentals.
Okay. And we did send out information to the different stratas. And I'm not sure, maybe how we do the mail out to find the owner of the property isn't maybe quite right. But if you sent it out to the strata of a condo association, you would think the strata has an obligation to forward that sort of information on to the owner. They have the list of who those people are. They email them for the AGMs, for all that stuff. So they're coming back now in the 12th hour. Again, like the water thing, when we read through the whole water thing, they show up at the end of it and go, we want to have a conversation about the water thing, but we've had a conversation for 2 years before. So if we keep delaying this, it's never going to move forward. I think that when we had the conversation, basically rentals that, we're not really, the people that are running a legitimate operation and they have somebody that shows up there to deal with the clientele that they have there, and they have somebody that does whatever work needs to be done so that the district staff doesn't have to go out there, and they come and get a business license. It's pretty simple. But if you're one of these guys where the guy's got a punch box, walks in the door, party central for 3 days, leaves, and our bylaw officer's been over there every night, 3 nights they were there, that's just not acceptable. That's the issue. But if council believes that we should have this some more by having another open house, well, but I'm not going to vote in favor of it.
All right, Councillor McCabe, then Councillor Anderson.
Yeah, if I could ask through the chair, how many people are online right now?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then district staff.
So we have 5 people online and we posted this agenda on Friday afternoon, I believe.
Correct.
And so it's been, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. And short-term rental is on the agenda. And we have 5, 7 people attending. Staff has put a lot of work into this. They've looked at other communities in our neighborhood, Revelstoke, and I'm not sure of all the surrounding communities, but and applied a portion of best practices from each one to make it fit Sycamoose, our community. And I think we should move forward. I think the information's been disseminated to the public and they've had lots of chance for input, just like they have this evening. And there's 7 people online. I think this has to move forward.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I think that Scott, you had presented last meeting of the zonings and what was going to be allowed and what wasn't. I just need some clarification on stratas. Are not stratas in charge of their own short-term rentals? We can't tell the Narrows that they can have short-term rentals or not. Like, aren't condos in charge of their own short-term rentals?
Through the chair.
Yeah.
So we can regulate the use on the property. So we can regulate the use of stratas, whether they're commercial or residential. So some stratas are zoned commercial and their own strata can then decide what happens. Some stratas are residential and do allow short-term rentals. So yeah, there's 2 layers. There's government, that's us, and then there's the owners. They can regulate themselves as well.
Go ahead.
Through the chair, I'm not saying Scott and Sarah haven't done their job. Like I say, we spent a lot of time with going through Melinda. That whole package that we did with Melinda has changed. There's a new one that Scott and Sarah has presented, but we as council haven't had time, planning committee has looked at it, but the council hasn't. And just one item in there is RVs are excluded. So if you have an RV in your Airbnb in your RV in your backyard, it's excluded. Your home might not be able to do it in your home, but you can do it. So there's just little things in there that should be tweaked a little bit. I just, council should, it's a big item. That's my thought. And I mean, I don't say just council look at it, staff and council together as a workshop.
So your recommendation here is that council, that the committee of the whole be scheduled for April 6th. Okay, so that's the recommendation and that's been moved and seconded. And so we'll get council to consider this. I have been asked for, Global is going to interview me tomorrow. I talked to Scott a little about this and I've talked to some of the locals that are willing to talk on this. It's been very complicated and controversial. But if you feel that we need more time, then the recommendation is basically on the table. So does council want to discuss this anymore? I'll give you an opportunity. Go ahead, Mr. Bushel.
One more thing for Jeff. I don't hear a lot of conversations from stratas. I hear it from the people that have Airbnbs in town. It's not so much the stratas that have a problem with it. It's the people in town that didn't get the notice. I don't know if the stratas even sent their notices out to their owners. I'm just talking about the people that have residents in town, Airbnb. They don't, some live here and some don't. But I'm just more concerned about the residents in town.
All right, I get that. Okay, Councilor Anderson.
I agree. I think that we should just have one more look at this before, and it's not going to hurt for us just to have one more look. So I agree with Gord. I think we should, staff and council should sit down one more time and just make sure that we've got our T's crossed, our I's dotted, and some of these concerns that Gord does get, and I've had them too, are addressed and covered.
Scott.
So since the last council meeting, and I think, we post the information on our website and the newspaper picked up, and then we really started hearing from people. And then since our last council meeting, Sarah's heard from, I'm going to say 24 individuals. We have a meeting with one of the stratas next week, met with a couple of owners, received 5 business licenses from people who, probably can't go through, aren't zoned properly for right now, but they're applying for business licenses as to start the conversation. And that's what we've asked them to do. So I think the word's getting out. I think probably everybody in this room would probably agree on a lot of what's in there. It's transition, like Councillor McGahan said last time, it's a transition, right? People are like, hey, I have people booked this summer. I don't want to ruin anybody's vacation. And and that's a really good conversation to have, is about the transition and how we're gonna roll it out, and more than happy on the 6th to go through it with council and we can, I don't know how much more information we're gonna need. I guess we're always gonna be accepting input, and we do plan on going out and listening to people, but yeah, probably the transition is the main topic that we need to talk about.
Bob, go ahead.
Thank you. I would like to, if we could on April 6th, to do it like 1 PM in a couple hours or something, if that would work. And just go over it one more time.
Councillor Anderson.
Yeah, and that's a really good point as well, Scott, is to discuss how the transition looks as well, you know, so that we're all on the same page. So it's just good for us to know as well.
Yeah, it's been challenging for council, and community input has taken place. We've taken some models from other communities as well, and but the resolution is to take another opportunity to have a look at this. I have to agree that the community has been quite involved. Tonight we've got 10 or 15 people that have booked in, and in the past, there's been a lot of conversation in regards to Facebook and social media and some of the comments. So really difficult for us to get this right, but I think staff has done a really good job in trying to, get this right. And yeah, if Mr. Bushel, if you'd like to see us prolong this a little bit longer, I don't think a week is going to make that much difference. I would like to see this behind us, so I really would. Go ahead, Jeff.
We have to be mindful as well that, when we got the hoteliers to sign up to the MRDT tax, that's how we got them to sign up, was by getting some raids on the Wild Wild West and the Airbnb thing, and trying to create somewhat of a level playing field. So you have businesses that are paying commercial tax rate and employ people, and you have a household that's paying a residential tax rate, making his mortgage payment. So somewhere we have to level the playing field. And I'm sorry if the guy with the Airbnb doesn't understand that. Like, we did this for the hoteliers. We spent 2 years chasing them down to get the MRDP tax. It's just paying us about $100,000 a year.
90 this year. And once we start regulating short-term rentals and educating them that they must register for MRDT, that will significantly grow too.
Yeah, it'll go up by 50% anyway.
I would say a lot of them are not profitable.
So that was the purpose of it, so that we could promote the district to six. So we have to be mindful of that. And if that's the explanation we have to make to these people, then I'm fine with it. But we made this choice 3 years ago.
I think the key is education, at the same time, clarity, and that's what this is going to accomplish. Go ahead, Councillor Bushel.
Yeah, Jeff, I just want to be clear. I mean, I pushed for this 7 years ago. And I think we have to do it. And it's just like our bylaw, zoning bylaw, we pushed for this a long time ago, and it's taking time, but I just think we need to get it right. Not have to go and amend it within the first year.
All right, Mr. Bushel, you had the last say. I'm going to call the question on the resolution. All those in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. All right. Stop garbage, Councillor Bushel, truck stop garbage. On its truck stop garbage, go ahead. You have the floor, Mr. Bushel, in regards to your concerns regarding the truck stop. Look at the picture.
Well, first off, through the chair, thank you. I mean, I do this every year and I go out, but this year's again, it's really bad out there. And I got to thank the young kids that were out there and cleaned up that ditch, and they did a beautiful job. You could eat out of it. And it was like, that's next day after the weekend, I showed up there, there's a whole bunch of garbage kicked out of the truck, laying in the ditch, and then a couple feet down, there's another load of garbage, and they just keep doing it. And I just think we have to somehow stop those guys from dumping garbage. And Jeff and I went out there once and we said, even if we blocked off the entrance to the Husky down by the because they basically use that road as a parking lot most of the time. You can only get one truck through it sometimes. I don't know if we have funding where we could put up parking dividers so they couldn't, and put a yellow line down the middle so you know where the road is. And they can't park there on the road. It's an actual public road. And you have to go park in the Husky parking lot. You can't park on the road. And these guys are parking there and the road's just deteriorated on both sides. I think we just spent a whole bunch of money paving on that up towards the golf course. And they just park on that side, and with all that weight, it just deteriorates that road. And it's the district road, it's not highways. So I just think we need to somehow force that owner to put some garbage cans in and keep them off our streets. That's my thought.
Councillor Malmus, go ahead.
You know, I know Terry, the chair's been out there and helped us on the spring cleanup. I mean, that's not apple juice in the bottles. We have a hazmat suit to handle, right? And I suggested once upon a time, and I would have suggested again, I mean, I can do, you know, what I want on my property. I'm not gonna get a sign permit, but you know what, my ditch is full in front of my property on the highway of garbage as well. And I said a long time ago, you know, although we got a lot of support for the truckers through COVID and the rest of it, but there's still pigs. That's a blatant truth of it. There's still pigs. Because they got garbage receptacles on the Husky. They're too lazy. They go there to use the washroom and the shower and the rest of it, but they kick their stuff out the door. They don't take it with them and put it in a proper garbage receptacle. And the guy that owns the Husky, you got to write him up 15 times before he actually cleans it up. And I don't know how or what you could do to correct that. But I mean, we go side by side up the mountain. You might take a couple of beer with you and a sandwich, but you don't leave anything there. You bring it all back with you. Like they carry this around in their truck. They should be responsible for getting rid of it. And I don't know, maybe John should spend a lot more time out there writing tickets, our bylaw guy. Like a lot more time. Like that should be his full-time job for the next 2 weeks. Because every time they throw something out the door, should write him a $1,000 ticket.
Go along and everything that's thrown out the window, they should get it right back in their cab. Anyway, you're next.
Thanks. Yeah, I think we need some kind of presence and a little bit of visible enforcement.
Okay. Colleen, go ahead.
There is a $2,000 fine for littering.
So up to.
I think, well, maybe it says up to 2,000. I thought the sign said when you're driving down the highway, it's a $2,000 fine for littering. My point is, there's no signage there. And I'm not saying that that's going to fix it because I work in a business that signs, unless you say read the signs, you're not going to get signs read. And even at that, it doesn't work. But anyway, visibly sitting right there, the fine for littering. And maybe a district sign saying, you know, snap after yourselves. Maybe they just need to be told that it's being watched, it's a problem, and it's 2 weeks after, 1 week after, how long is this picture after? Like, it's the same. So I don't know, maybe there needs some signage and like belts alongside that. I don't know.
The problem is that the problem has existed for a long time. And we have not been able to find a solution. In order for us to find a solution, in order to fix this, we have to get somewhat serious about getting a solution in place. And whether it's fines or whatever, we have to send a message. If it's a sign that's we need to put up, then we should put the sign up. But we've had this dance for some time now, and we got to figure it out and how we're going to police this, because that is totally unacceptable. That's the entrance of our town, and it's also having a big impact on the Eagle River Golf Course. So somewhere along the line, we got to figure this out, whether we give John some serious clout or whatever. But we got to get this rectified one way or another. This is just brutal. Go ahead, Councilor Malmus.
I'm pretty sure that most of those guys must be illiterate because that blue truck with the UPS on it, he's guaranteed got 2 no parking signs right beside him. And he's on the wrong side of the road. And if you go down the other road, going back around that corner, going out to in front of the car wash, it's got no parking signs the entire length of it. Yet that doesn't stop them. So here's your sign.
Yeah.
It's gonna help you. You need to have the bylaw officer standing there for 10 hours a day, pay him, because he's gonna get his wages and tickets anyway. And just have him start writing tickets.
Then Counselor McCabe and then Counselor Bushel, go ahead. Counselor.
Can John make a bunch of us deputy bylaw officers? Sitting out there?
Well, we're all deputy bylaw officers anyway. Go ahead, Counselor McCabe.
Yeah, no, this has been going on since I've been on council and we haven't fixed it yet. Not that we haven't tried. What about surveillance cameras? Like I see a BC Hydro pole there. Couple of surveillance cameras and then some signs saying camera surveillance. Some intersections are red light ticketed by cameras. I mean, John could just review the camera and issue tickets based on the driver's license number and who's ever thrown something out the window. Doesn't even have to be there, just review the video.
Good. Counselor Bushel, then Counselor McManus.
Yeah, it's like I say, it's kind of two problems. It's the garbage is one thing, but the parking is the other thing. And they are, but I don't know what, I know those no posts are really expensive. I don't know what it would cost to put no posts out there and that's the roadway and you can't place to park on either side of it because you'll have to park on the roadway and then that, we could, have them towed or whatever. It's the problem and then they park there and then they sleep in that. I'm sure the guy in the white truck was sleeping. I can't remember. But anyways, they just get out in the morning and they kick it out the door. It's not a problem.
Counselor Moms, go ahead.
So my brother-in-law has 130 some trucks. I asked him about issues like this. He said, most of the larger companies nowadays have a safety and compliance officer that works within the company. So like that says UPS on the side of it. So if you can find out who the safety compliance officer is, you take a picture of the truck, park beside the sign, and you send it to them and you say, we're issuing this guy a ticket. So when John puts a ticket on his window, you also contact, because if the ticket goes on his window and he pays it, the safety and compliance officer doesn't see it, but then sooner or later, they will tell everybody that drives a truck at their fleet. That's not, you don't do that because it's not good rap for them either. So he said, most times getting a hold of the company safety compliance officer.
Yeah.
Well,
Targeting the right people.
well, it was started. You issue the ticket to the truck, you take a picture of it, take a picture of it by the side, and then you send that to the safety compliance officer. And then that company will go after him again as well. And they put the word out to the rest of them. So.
Okay, I think staff is I think they've heard our concerns and maybe we have a solution. Maybe give this some thought. I think that maybe if we target the corporations, I think that's a good idea. I like the idea of the cameras situation, maybe come up with some sort of solution, bring it back. We'll make a resolution, we'll make it a law, and then we'll just go after them. I think that's, we got to get this, we got to stop this. This has been going on for way too long. Councillor Anderson and Councillor Bushel.
I'd still put up a couple of signs as well as to consider as well, because it's no dumping your garbage or whatever.
Councillor Bushel.
Yeah, and then, and you got to thank Ann Margaret for writing their letter, but, and help, offering to help clean up that mess. And I know it shouldn't probably wait till our cleanup, but it's pretty bad. It's a pretty bad site. But I do think we should write another letter to the owner that owns the property and another letter to Esso and send this picture to Esso. And we just need to keep putting it in writing to them, and maybe we threaten them that we're going to close this road. It really has no function. It's only really to the Husky. They're not going to come all the way back the other way. Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, no, I think we have to draw a fine line. All right, I think staff's got, go ahead, go.
I make a point, I don't know if you noticed, but both those trucks are parked on the wrong side of the street. They should have the police on these guys. Yes, because they're on the wrong side of the street, they're parked.
Yeah.
So if they get a couple of tickets, you know, word might get it out too.
Yeah, we've addressed that too with the police department as well. Staff, you've got some direction. Daryl, you'd like?
Through the chair. I remember this picture from, I think it was last Thursday. It was floating around. Does that sound right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we went out Friday and we cleaned this all up. And as of today, it looks like that again.
Yeah.
So in past years, what I've done is I've gone to talk to the owner. He's there in the morning. And I've told them it's their responsibility as their clients making this mess. And if Public Works staff has to come and clean it, he'll be getting an invoice and we're not cheap. And that seemed to work every other year. So we hit this every spring with them. It's messy and they're out of control. But I've spoken with John today and I think we'll maybe I'll go with them tomorrow. We'll pay a visit and clean that up.
Thanks, Daryl.
Give me a vest and a hard hat on.
And some clubs.
See if we can solve the problem. All right, okay, enough of that. I'll go on to the next thing. Okay, strategic priorities. Anybody want to talk about any of the strategic priorities right now? They're on here. There's 18 of them. Counselors. Hearing, go ahead, Jeff.
Well, we talked about this, but it was, so the rail trail meeting on Friday. Again, the district was, I'm the representative, Terry was president of it. We tried to have a conversation about access to the rail trail and crossing agreements. And the amazing thing is the technical committee, under the direction, I'm assuming, of the two CAOs, through the minutes taker, which is Paul McIntyre, had it that you had to register for a public meeting. And if you weren't registered, you weren't allowed. And that just doesn't happen anyplace. Like, that's like us saying to you, you gotta stay outside, you register, give us your name and address. The only time you ask for the public to actually give you their name and address is if they wish to speak. That's the time you ask the public for their name and address. If it's an open public meeting, you cannot discriminate and say you can't attend this. So that was of a big concern. Even I had to register to attend the meeting, and I was a member of the governance committee. I had to register. So and they did deny access to some select people, which is totally wrong. They eventually let them in for the last 5 minutes of the meeting, but it's just totally wrong. So.
Anything else? Thanks, Jeff. All right. With that being said, we'll move on to council's reports. Councilor Bootle, you're up.
Through the chair, sorry, I've been away for a little bit, so I don't have a lot to report. Just met with some condo owners and residential strata Airbnb owners. And just, yeah, been talking to a couple of the developers of 2 Mile and Old Town Bay. Yeah, so, and everything's looking good for the summer.
Councilor Anderson.
I went to the Edmonton Boat Show. And I'd like to say that inventory is sold out. So it's a busy market out there. There's sold signs on every boat at the boat show. So more just picking up here in Sycamus. And yeah, I think we're going to have a very, very busy year here. So that's pretty exciting. But other than that, I haven't had a lot of actual district time, but busy time.
Councilor McCabe.
Well, I attended the planning meeting this morning and last Friday, attended a meeting with Pam Beach here in council chambers. she invited a professor from TRU to work at 3 communities in BC doing a study on how rural communities use IT to help in healthcare. And so we'll be part of that report, and part of that, Evan sat in on that too. And part of that report will help justify us maybe being qualified for a recognized community health center to your health down the road. Just a small little piece of the puzzle. And that's about it.
Counselor Momus?
Boy, I had something, but I didn't write it out of it.
Already said a lot.
Oh, just things are moving good. That the district is doing a good job. Daryl and his crew are just about done that wastewater 5-year project that was supposed to be 2 years. He told me earlier that they're getting ready to put the equipment in the hole. They made a vault there for, which is actually secondary as a bomb shelter because it's pretty stout. So it's he'll be glad that that's done, something off his plate. So he should be happy because he's getting rid of the bridge. He's getting rid of the wastewater thing. He's soon to be down to having nothing to do.
It's about there, yeah.
Just about there.
Pop?
If I may follow up on that, it'd be nice to see the guy take a day off. And the 5-year to 2-year thing wasn't his problem. It's good. I'm glad that he's getting that done too. It's good. I was glad to go to the high school and do the grad exit interviews. Part of my portfolio is trying to increase educational opportunities for our students. So to sit down and listen to 8 of the grads and find out what they're doing after high school and trying to help shape that a little bit, give us feedback, it was good.
So I've attended the North Hospital Regional Board meeting in regards to the budget, and it's going to be quite substantial this year. CSRD meetings with our lawyers regarding the rail trail. But I just want to make mention to council how much I appreciate your support when it came to supporting the 2-mile program when it come to putting a support system in order to protect those people. Flinro has come to the table and they've offered up to $30,000, of which this council had basically committed to supporting that particular project. During the media report from the CSRD, they made comments that Finro has supported that particular project, to protect those people, putting in that warning system above 2 mile. What bothers me about this is that that report was brought in by the CSRD and the emergency planning and by Flinro and the province and whatnot. Never once was there a mention of the fact that the District Moose Council and staff were to support that particular project. And that bothers me because I think what took place is that based on the fact that we stepped up and committed ourselves, I think that the province decided that they would help us and support us on behalf of that. But not once was it ever mentioned by the CSRD. And I think we deserve better than that. We stepped up, we gave them the indication, emergency planning, that we were going to support this financially if nobody else was. And not once were we given credit for that. And I'm disappointed with that. So that's my report. Anyway, we'll move on. Rise and report recommendation of the committee and the whole now rise and report, and that the recommendations from the March 23rd, 2022 committee of the whole be adopted. I need a mover. Councillor Malmus, Councillor Evans, all in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. All right, public input. Is there any hands up in this short little?
Ms. Heap would like to address council.
No.
Yeah. All right, Deb, you're up. Go, girl.
Just unmuting. Just a quick reminder, time's going fast. And of course, there's only one more council meeting before the community cleanup. I'm back next week and I'm going to be going hard on quite a few things and trying to get that, like that going along with the rest of the things. I had mentioned about that destination garden. I like Gord's idea on it just coming out of my budget and proceeding with that. So I'll work with Sarah and such on that in getting that going. But I'll probably do a delegation again to you guys coming up pretty quick because there's a lot of stuff that's coming up really fast. And that's it.
Okay, Deb, thank you. Go ahead, Brian.
Wondering, we get an update on that equipment that was supposed to be installed at White Creek for early warning or advanced warning?
As to what's happening with it?
That's, is the equipment getting installed? Or?
Go ahead, Devin.
No, great question. So, yes, that was the $30,000 that the mayor was referencing that the government has agreed to fund to notify the residents. So we are having a open house sort of meeting scheduled at the Seniors Drop-In Center next Thursday, March 31st. We're specifically inviting everyone from the trailer park and also people in the 2 Mile area to provide them an update. And a lot of questions will be on this early warning system we have received funding for. What does it mean? And we're also pleased to announce that over 1,900 people in Sycamoose have signed up and registered the Alertable app. Okay, which is a fantastic number. And I think very similar number, 1,700, 1,800, I'm trying to remember, you were on the call, Daryl, that's in Area E that have signed up for the Alertable app. And we're gonna make mention of that also on March 31st. A simple app on your phone that provides updates on any weather phenomenon, weather conditions coming our way. Because the next 60 to 90 days as we enter freshet, it's critical that people pay attention to not only the snowpack, but also the potential excessive rains that usually accompany this area in the months of April, May, June. So March 31st, the time, remind me, Sarah?
5:30.
5:30 at the Seniors Drop-In Center, specific Q&A on the early warning system and the Alertable app. Seniors Drop-In Center. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Jeff.
Just as a comment, to do with that early warning system and the council voting in favor of it. Later on in the correspondence, there's a letter thanking me for leading that. I didn't lead it. I just brought it up. This council had already basically made that decision. One council meeting before, maybe 2 before, when we got a presentation by Derek at that time, we did have a meeting and we did discuss with Kelly the idea that, could we do this? And she said, yes, we could. So when we were here and it was getting too close, I just made the motion, but council supported it unanimously and it had been discussed by council and Kelly had already said that it was in the budget. So I don't want to be the guy getting the credit for this because it was the council and the mayor, this staff that actually pulled that off. So.
Thanks. One last thing was I didn't mention as far as the mayor's report. So on March the 29th, the Chamber of Commerce is putting on a mayor's breakfast at Bruce Mulligan's, and you can buy your tickets here from the chamber. The tickets are selling out quite fast. So, and we're going to be giving a complete report on all the things that we've accomplished and what we're going to accomplish. So that'll be discussed to our breakfast meeting at Moose Mulligan's morning of the 29th. All right, anything else? Okay, we'll move on. Royal Canadian Legion, branch number 99, liquor license outdoor patio area application. I'll just read out the recommendation. It's quite involved, but then I'll get Scott to talk about it. Recommendation, whereas the district of Sycamore received a copy of the application for a new outdoor patio area with a primary license held at 322 Main Street under the established name of the Royal Canadian Legion Branch number 99. And whereas the district of Sycamore is interested in receiving comments from residents within 800 meters of the Royal Canadian Legion Branch number 99 regarding the outdoor patio to be included in a resolution to the Cannabis Regulation Branch. Now therefore be resolved that the district of Sycamore solicit opinions of residents in Sycamore regarding council's intent to provide comments for a new outdoor patio area for the liquor primary license held at 322 Main Street under the establishment name of the Royal Canadian Legion Branch number 99 to be approved. I need a mover on this. Councillor Malmus, seconded by Councillor McCabe. Scott, can you just give us a brief report and then we'll call the question?
And thank you, Mr. Chair. So this is an application for the existing patio that the Legion was able to establish in 2020. During COVID, they were allowed to have that outdoor patio. So they want to make it permanent. It's 93 square meter patio, 48 people. And we're proposing to notify people and collect comments for the Legion. We could choose not to participate, but like we did for the golf course, the town's able to go gather those opinions, and then we'll bring it back to council with anything we hear, and then council can choose whether they want to recommend approval or not to the liquor and cannabis branch.
Okay, comments or questions? Oh, go ahead, Jeff.
Just a couple of comments. First off, resolution to the Cannabis Regulation Branch. So we don't have an ALC or BC Liquor Board anymore. We have a cannabis board. Is that where you get your liquor license?
I think it's a liquor and cannabis regulation branch. So the liquor got dropped out of that.
Oh,
missed it.
Yeah. Just because I'm going, okay, we've changed a few things. Maybe we're not going to allow that. Maybe liquor's going to become illegal in cannabis. So that was my first comment. And my second comment is that when the Legion talked about this, I just asked them if they were going to have to follow what the rules were for that outdoor patio, because that patio was basically put in by Peter Movement, and I got some donations for it. But at one time, previous to the COVID, the bar had to have a clear sight line of that patio. So we're not going to be involved in their actual liquor license application. We're just going to help spread it around to the 800 meters.
Right. So through the chair, we'll just poll the neighbors, and it'll be up to the Legion to take this through the process.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Yeah, we're just voting to see that we'll help the Legion collect public input.
Yeah, pretty much. All right, call the question. All those in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. All right, Sycamore's Narrows Active Transportation Bridge Feasibility Federal Active Transportation Planning Grant. Recommendation that council authorize staff to apply for the Federal Active Transportation Planning Grant for the amount of $50,000 for a feasibility study for a Sycamore's Narrows Active Transportation Bridge. Councilor McCabe, Councilor Bushel. All right, Scott, you want to comment on this as well?
And thank you, Mr. Mayor. So this is an application to the federal government for an active transportation planning grant. So this is for planning for active transportation bridge. We're not calling it pedestrian bridge because it should accommodate bicycles and other active transportation. And it's we're hoping to get a really good Class D cost estimate. And we're working with Urban Systems on the application. So through the Active Transportation Network Plan, this was going to be part of that Active Transportation Network Plan, but we have an opportunity to get up to 100,000 or up to 100% of the $50,000 we think it's going to cost. So money that we've already looked at providing through the Active Transportation Network Plan. So we'll have a little bit of money left over. We've also asked Splatson and the Rail Trail Technical Operating Committee for letters of support as well. So talked to Urban Systems today. They're ready to submit the application. And yeah, council, this council resolution will support that as well.
Thanks. Councilor Malmus, you have a comment? No, okay. Councilor McCabe?
I'd just like to thank staff for taking this on. Thank you for doing this.
I think I know what you're asking, but I don't want to talk.
Okay. Give you the opportunity. All right, I'm going to call the question. All those in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Thanks, Scott. All right. Zoning amendment bylaw number 1007/2022, 806 Trans-Canada Highway adoption recommendation of zoning amending bylaw number 1007/2022 be adopted as presented on 23rd day of March 2022, moved by Councillor Malmus, seconded by Councillor Bushel. Okay, Scott, quick report.
Thank you. Yeah, so this is an application to rezone a property. It's the 806 kind of highway portion of it, where the Best Western is. I believe the owner is online. He might want to say something. So council had their public hearing in February, 23rd of February. We then forwarded this to the Ministry of Transportation for approval, and it was approved. And so now council can adopt the bylaw. I'd like to answer any questions. I think council's pretty familiar with it though.
Go ahead, Councillor McCabe.
So, thank you, through Chair. So part of this is 10 units are going to be put aside for through BC Housing for affordable attainable housing. Council hasn't had a chance to see what that package looks like. I imagine it comes through BC Housing to staff and then to council, but like, so are those 10 units ownership, housing ownership, or are they low-income rentals, or what's the criteria for eligibility to those units? That kind of stuff. We haven't, it's good that there's 10 units per side. Are they on the fourth floor, the first floor, spread out through the building? We just, I don't know, how is that?
Right.
Look.
Go through the chair. So council is going to see this again at the development permit stage.
Right, okay.
Once they have the development permit, that's when they can go to BC Housing and work out with BC Housing what it's going to look like. What we've talked about with the owner is, we'll call it attainable housing, but it's market housing that's set aside for rentals. So it's not going to be subsidized. But yeah, that'll come from BC Housing once the owners makes that application to BC Housing.
So just the second part of that. So it's kind of a carrot dangling in front of council, but there's no guarantee that we're going to have those 10 units.
Correct.
Okay.
Chair, the reason that we don't have a guarantee on the 10 units is there's no guarantee that BC Housing is going to give them participate in the funding. Is that correct?
Correct.
Yeah. So BC Housing doesn't participate. That doesn't exist.
All right, any other comments on this? I'm going to call a question. All those in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. All right, moving on to B, 2022-2026 financial plan, first, second, and third reading. Recommendation that the District of Sycamoore's financial plan 2022 to 2026 bylaw number 1018/2022 be given first, second, and third reading the 23rd day of March 2022. I need a mover on this. Councillor Evans, Councillor Malmus. Any comments on this? Okay, good. I'm going to call the question. All those in favor? Carried unanimously. There you go, Kelly. We've already had the discussion. All right. Animal control bylaw number 1013/2022. Recommendation that the animal control bylaw number 1013/2022 be given second and third reading as presented this 23rd day of March 2022. I need a mover on this. Councillor Bushel, seconded by Councillor Evans. Jen, you want to give us a quick update?
Yeah, thank you. Through the chair. So just as a refresher for council and the public, in 2021, staff were directed to prepare a more comprehensive bylaw that to expand on just dog control, but actually responsible animal ownership. That bylaw was brought to council in October for first reading. And at that time, council wanted some public input on the directions such as limiting dogs per household, mandatory identification tags, and if the bylaw enforcement officer should be given an opportunity to create safety management plans, if you will, with dogs that exhibit aggressive behavior rather than just outright prohibiting them. And so the bylaw was distributed. Staff have talked with the residents that came forward to express their opinions, and we did a public survey, had just under 200 responses. So I'm feeling pretty confident in the data that we collected. So I'll just go through quickly what we collected. That one, should domesticated pets be required to wear an identification tag? 73% of respondents said yes. So that is reflected in clause 9 of the bylaw. Do you think there should be a limit to the number of dogs per household? 58% said yes, there should be a limit. And so the breakdown of where does that number fall, 1 to 7, where do we limit? Staff have 3 still in the prepared bylaw, and that's in clause 21. And then we just got some other data, like what do you think is a nuisance? Tell us more about what you'd like to see as responsible animal ownership. And a lot of it is cleaning up after your dogs, not allowing your dogs to be at large. Again, aggressive dogs, taking care of those. Another question was, should the bylaw enforcement officer be authorized to create safety management plans? And, that was a confident yes from the community, with 70% saying it needs to be treated on a case-by-case basis. And we know that if a dog exhibits aggressive behavior, that's, where does that stand? And how should it be enforced upon? Do you just prohibit the dog? Do you just ban the dog? Because then those owners might get another dog and that could become another aggressive dog, right? It's better to work with that animal owner and just work toward what we consider responsible animal ownership. So that is what's in the bylaw and based on the public input. So I'm recommending second and third reading. However, if, council has options, you can give it second reading today and give me some direction of how you'd like it to be amended. You could also tell me to stand down and not continue preparation of an animal control bylaw.
Thank you, Jen. Comments or questions from council? Councilor Malmus.
I think you did a great job, Jen, and that the public's basically said what they want. So I don't think we should argue with what the public wants. So we should just move forward.
Any other comments or questions?
Yeah.
No? Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, through the chair. Yeah, no, I totally agree. It's time, we're starting to grow and I think Daryl will really love this bylaw because we've got lots of dogs. Because I can hear him from my place all the time. But yeah, good job, Jen.
Councilor McKee.
Well, I have one question.
The dog owner.
I am a dog owner, and I think staff did a great job on this. And I did read through the bylaw, but my question is about if someone has more than 3 dogs right now, is there a grandfather clause?
Absolutely. This bylaw will be enforced on a complaint basis only as well. So if somebody is not being a responsible animal owner right now and they've got 18 cats, I'm just going to use that as an example, or I guess it's 18 dogs. If they've got 18 dogs on the property and they're not taking care of them responsibly, that is how it will come to the attention of the district. And then through bylaw enforcement, we always seek voluntary compliance and we look for progression. And it's not just a heavy hand, get rid of your dogs. We look at how to transition them into compliance with the bylaw.
Thank you.
My daughter has 26 to 35 dogs on her property at any given time.
That is a lot of dogs.
Yeah, they own a dog kennel. Okay, I'm gonna call. They're doing very well with it, by the way, in Kelowna. All right, I'm gonna call the question. All those in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. All right. Pre-qualified contractor list policy. Recommendation of the policy PW6 pre-qualified contractor list be adopted as presented this 23rd day of March 2022, replacing policy PW6 equipment contractors for hire. I need a mover on this. Councilor Malmus, seconded by Councilor Anderson. Comments or questions on this? Go ahead, Mr. Malmus.
Yeah, it says, staff report, pre-qualified contractor list policy. This is the policy. I'm not, all it says is comprehensive liability, workers' comp, valid business license, ICBC, proof of ownership of equipment. So other than that, how are we selecting these pre-qualified contractors?
Thank you. So this is more of a housekeeping matter. So the former policy, it was the same structure, but it was delegated to a public works foreman to review. And there's supposed to be an annual call out where we do invite submissions and they apply, if you will. That, to be honest, kind of went by the wayside for a few years. We weren't doing this annual call out. And so in kind of reviewing the practice, it was like, this policy was, I think, 1997 or 1998. It was like, let's update it. Let's modernize the terminology. Let's get this back on track where we do an annual call out and they need to have a valid business license. They just need to check the boxes and then we have them on a list. And then it's now the operations manager that would just kind of review to make sure that they can stay on the list.
Okay.
Yeah. So this is, just modernizing an outdated policy.
All right, any other comments or questions on this? Can't call a question. All those in favor? Unanimously. Thanks, John. All right, correspondence for action, utility billing. Kelly, you want to give us a comment on the utility billing as a state?
Let me get this up here. Yeah, so we received this correspondence from Mr. Watterson, who is here this evening. And he clearly is not happy with how we bill specifically, I believe it's more our sewer, how we bill our sewer versus how we bill our water. Because how we bill our sewer is we do it based on a percentage of water consumption along with a fixed charge. So it's 80% of water. We did go through an extensive utility review, as you are all aware, back in, I believe, 2018. We adjusted the utility rates accordingly. We used to bill sewer differently. It was more flat and fixed per unit. It was all over the map. So this is best practice. Saying that, recognizing that our municipality does have hotter summers, there is flexibility to review the bylaw at any time council so chooses to look at methods in terms of the percentage. So taking a look at what some other municipalities do, a lot of municipalities actually bill quarterly, not semi-annually. And what they do is they will bill their sewer rate based on their like January, February, March consumption, and they'll extrapolate that for the rest of the year. But it's at 100% of the water consumption. So we discount ours 80% year round. Other municipalities like Vancouver, I mean, it's a large municipality, they do 85% year round. We could do 80% for the first 6 months, 70% in the summer months, recognizing there's water usage there. I mean, we can review how we do our sewer billing if council so chooses. We do have, Daryl got some stats in terms of the total consumption that the water treatment plant uses versus the sewer treatment plant. And I don't know if you want to speak to that briefly.
Yeah, sure, I can quickly through the chair. Last year wouldn't have been a great example because we had the fires going and we had sprinklers on people's roofs and we cast a lot of water onto the ground and didn't see it back. So the numbers are really skewed from last year. But if we go back to 2020 and we take the water that came out of the lake, we measure that at the low lift. We have a mag meter there that accurately tells us how many cubes of water we take out of the lake. Over the course of the year in 2020, we took 574,000 cubes out of the lake. We also know from a mag meter at the wastewater treatment plant at 285,000 influent cubes back to the plant. So that ratio in 2020 was 49.7%. So 0.5 basically. Seems like a lower number than a 0.8 number, but I would say that based on our water conservation plan that we adopted last year, Urban System helps us compile that stuff. We recognize that there's over 20% of the water that was used for flushing. So that's hydrant flushing, didn't make it back. Unidirectional line flushing, didn't make it back to our plant. And the residuals to keep the dead ends of the water line fresh, we dump a lot of water doing that. So if you take that 20% and apply it to the overall amount of water we've produced, just knock that down by 20, we're closer to 0.7 of a return of what's going out, coming back. So I don't think we're that far out, but again, as Kelly said, that's your prerogative to look at the costing on that. I will just say one other thing. We did commission this report for water conservation, and it's a pretty important thing. There was 2 points last summer where we had all 3 trains in the water treatment plant making water. And I was watching the trend screen on a hot day in the summer, watching the reservoirs kind of roll over. So we were losing ground for a short period a couple times last year. That's a really scary feeling. So we were actively going out and turning off people's sprinklers and just the water that was getting dumped on people who were watering their driveways and stuff. So, yeah.
Counselor Malmus and Counselor McKay.
Through the chair, yes. So I was, one of the things on the used to be portfolio list was the water and sewer. I was the chair for the water and sewer committee. We went to great lengths to put together a formula that was fair to everybody, because the way it was before, the condos were basically getting water for $50 a year. And so we said that why should the guy that lives in town 12 months a year pay $500 or $600 for water and sewer when the condo pays $50? So we adjusted it to get, and the excess money left over from the water and sewer fund on both sides is for the upgrades. We just spent $3.2 billion on our sewer. We're spending right now, what is it, Daryl, $240,000 on replacing some of the cartridges, the filter cartridges.
We will be.
Yeah. So that's what that money's for. Like the equipment needs to be upgraded and kept and paid because Interior Health says we have to. So it isn't that there's excess money there. Just because there's a difference, that money goes into a pot. So there's $114,000 left this year, and there was 100 and some left last year. And so they're going to spend that replacing the cartridges in there. The water and sewer are a not-for-profit utility to benefit the community. There's not a dime left. Everybody that works or has any time spent on water and sewer gets paid out of the water and sewer fund. So if Kelly does entries on it, Shauna used to be, but not anymore. So Wendy, with what she does, her time is calculated and booked to the water, to the sewer. So the money that's charged for water and sewer is a not-for-profit benefit. Now, the city of Calgary is $70 to $110 a month for water and sewer. And I know for a fact that the city of Calgary uses an 80% number, the same number that we use. So some communities, it's 100%. Some are 70%. We tried to balance this so that it was the best deal for everybody. Yes, it was hot last year. Yes, everybody used water. Yes, everybody was concerned about fires. But that system that was put in 5 years ago, the reason that I even ran was because I was appalled at the amount of effort and money that was thrown into $7.9 billion for that water treatment plant. That's why you have a bill on your taxes, because we fell short, because that past government didn't get enough grant funding. They only got 4.6 million worth. So the cost had to be covered. That's why you got $100 and some charge on your taxation bill at the end of the year. Everybody gets that. So it's a service. And I'll be honest with you, when we started doing this and we came up with these rates, we had some people from over there that were paying $60 a year come in and complain about having to pay the real rate for water. They said we're only part-time citizens. And I said, well, I'll tell you what, we'll turn the tap off. You jump over the bank, the river's right there, get a bucket, bring it in, boil it, use it. That's as good as we can do. If you don't want to pay the rate for clean water, because for decades, we had a boil water order. We haven't had that for the last years.
Okay,
So there's a cost for that.
if you read my letter, I don't deny the fact that I pay for the water. I don't mind that. It's what I see is on the line where it says sewer. There's two of us in the house. And I think the previous 2 or 3 years, we paid, I don't know, $30 for the first 6 months of the year for sewer. And in the last 6 months of 21, we're paying 2 to 3 times for sewer. And there's just the two of us. We didn't have 15 people in the house all of a sudden using the toilets or the showers or whatever. That water all went out in my yard to keep the grass green, so I didn't have the fire from 2 mile hustle through my yard. So that's what I was complaining about, is all of a sudden I'm paying for the sewer that I'm not using. I don't mind paying for the water. I mean, you can't control the weather. But I was upset about paying extra for the sewer, which I'm not using. And that's something else in the letter I said too. We didn't have any tourists last summer to speak of. There was all the smoke and fire. And I'm thinking that the sewage rate, which you went through the sewer plant, is probably a lot less than other years. Was it down?
It was down a bit from the year before. Yeah.
And that's what I'm kind of thinking. Why is my sewer bill going up? And yet we're using less sewer. And I'm thinking that the same for all the people at 2 Mile and on the south side of town that have their sprinklers going. Sure, okay, they don't mind probably paying for the water, but why are we paying extra sewer when it's just going out in the yard or on your roof? That's my complaint.
All right, Councillor Malmus, go ahead, and then Councillor Bushel.
So,
Councillor McKay, were you in there? Okay, you're next.
so through the chair, yeah, and we did have another council meeting because we got a letter from the people that were evacuated during the fires, saying that they had put sprinklers on their house and they had done this and they had done that. And they were making the same request as actually they wanted some of the water covered as well. And as a council, I mean, our service bylaw says water, 80% sewer. And yes, you could be like my father in Calgary. He's so cheap, he squeaks. He's got a house and he refuses to water his lawn because he says, I'm not paying for water that I'm putting on my lawn to go down to be get charged sewer for as well. So that was a choice of his to do that. So his lawn is brown all the time, as soon as it gets hot, all right? But that's his choice. And other people chose to water their lawn. But our bylaw, for the most part, works. Last year was an exception. I mean, maybe it's gonna get hotter and it's gonna stay hotter. Maybe we gotta adjust it, but till we get numbers from the sewage treatment plant of what that ratio is exactly. And should we be adjusted it every year? Should we have every year a council meeting where the staff goes and says, okay, we did this much water, we only did this much, because there's a meter on the sewer side, there's a meter on the water side. So they know exactly how much went out, exactly how much come in.
So figure out a percentage of the sewage.
He just told you it was 70%, sir. So that's 10% less than what, so you would save 10%. So we're supposed, it would cost us more for staff to go through all the billing to adjust the billing by 10%. And if we adjust everybody's, we can't just adjust one, can't give it to you specifically and not that, we have to adjust everybody. So just saying, it's.
All right, Councillor McCabe, you got a comment, and Councillor Bushel.
Yeah, I think Councillor Malmus pretty much covered what I was going to say. You know, in the short version, we have the community charter that governs us. We're not allowed to make a profit on sewer water, but it has to pay for itself, and we have to put 20 to 30% in reserves every year. And at 70%, if we're charging 80, that gives us 10%. I don't know, I might be doing the math wrong, but we need to put a minimum percentage in reserves if we're not meeting the community charter for future capital projects or maintenance and upkeep. So like Councillor Mama said, we can't adjust it just for one person. That person has to adjust it for their own needs. I think And we need a couple years, or at least a one full more year to see if the numbers allow us to charge less. We'd be, if we're not making enough to run our water and sewer and put money in reserves for maintenance and operations and capital projects on the sewer, we'd be breaking the law.
Gord, go ahead, you're next.
Yeah, through the chair, Ralph, yeah, no, we totally hear you. But it's tough decisions sometimes. We hired a consultant to go through and look at our water and sewer, and they did a complete review, did a, check, went back years and checked everything, and we were in trouble if we didn't make rate changes. We had nothing in reserve. We had some upgrades that had to happen, and so we had to adjust our rates. And just in the last 2 years, we really had to adjust our rates, and we just had to do it. So I hear you, but it's like Jeff's covered pretty much everything, and Malcolm, but it's something we had to do.
I know I've talked to several people around town and their bills are not too bad. But mine, because I have a larger lot and lots of grass. And so that's where I put the water to it. I got an irrigation system and I got a 1-inch line. And I don't know, I just feel that I'm paying too much. I'm paying those fixed costs on the sewer and on water. And I asked Justin, I think I think he's in the department, I think too.
Finance.
Justice or something about it, and what if I had a meter just on my water? That went on. And then you know exactly what water I'm putting in the sewer, which would be in the household. And he said, well, we have to charge me a fixed cost plus just a fixed cost. I'm already paying a fixed cost for both. I have to pay for a third. Anyway, and it was like my bill for water and sewer for a year is over $2,000. And that's talking on taxes where there's a $500 charge for a sewer. I forget what it said on the tax notice. And also there's $170 for the water treatment plant. That's my taxes. And then there's the water bill. It was over $2,000. A lot of money for water and sewer.
Kelly, you want to comment?
Yeah, I was just gonna say for the irrigation, I don't think there's a fixed fee. I think there's like a meter charge, and then you get charged for the water consumption. So if you do have a larger lot, I can talk to you afterwards, and then so you're not paying for the sewer piece, you're just strictly paying for the water piece. There's just a meter charge.
3 meters.
Yeah, like so a 3/4, because you do have a 1-inch meter, so you're getting a higher meter charge because you have a 1-inch meter versus a 3/4-inch meter already. So we can talk afterwards about getting an irrigation meter. It sounds like you like it green grass and you have a larger property, so fair enough. You don't want to be paying sewer charges on that water. So maybe we can take a look and do some comparatives on some savings that might cost you. And in terms of the stuff that's on your property taxes, so that for the water treatment plant and for the sewer is to finance long-term debt that was used for extending sewer out, for example, to Rama, right? So that's why that additional amount is on there. And actually the sewer debt is significantly going down in 2022. So you will see it's almost half. So you will see that number go down.
That was one of my questions.
Yeah.
Because I was going to be finished paying for.
Yeah, it's already 10 years, so I believe there's another 10 years on it. However, MFA or debt, the people who we borrow from normally forgive early, and that interest rate just went down to 1.47% this year. So you will see a decrease in 2022 on that number. It'll probably be half. Correct.
Yeah, we've been challenged with this. And tell you what, we bounced this around big time. I mean, with lots of conversation, trying to get it right. And anyway, Kelly, we'll leave that in your hands.
Go to you and we'll have a chit chat.
Okay. Thank you.
Hey, thanks. All right.
One other point on this, because we did review all of our utilities and it'll be done in 2023. And then at that point, I think it would be prudent to take a look at our rates and how we bill and make any adjustments probably next year.
Okay.
Once we have a better idea.
Okay, thanks, Kel. All right. Where are we at here?
Very.
And we got top down correspondence. Okay,
Carrie.
oh, you had another comment? Go ahead, Jeff.
Just a comment that, when we went through all this water and sewer stuff in 19, it actually went on for over a year. The sewer rate actually went down because we had more money in the sewer fund. Not everybody was hooked up when the rates were calculated. So you had to pay for infrastructure where there was only a parcel of people on it. But when everybody got on the sewer system, we had a lot of money in it. And the water system had not enough money. So Kelly and council voted on moving some of the money from the water sewage treatment plant to the water treatment plant to balance it so that they both now had the right amount of money in it per operation. So the sewer rate went down from what it was in 2018 or so.
All right, thanks, Jeff. All right, anything else on this? Okay, we're gonna move on. Thanks. Thanks for bringing that to our attention. We'll see if we can work it out. All right, correspondence for action. City of Nelson donation to the Red Cross for the Ukraine. There's a recommendation that the district donate a certain amount of money to the Red Cross Ukraine humanitarian campaign. Does council support this? And if so, we need to put a number in here. Councilor Bushel.
You know, through the chair, John Lee from Nelson sent out that email. I just kind of hit home, and you forget about, you know, the Ukrainians that built Highway 97 to open up the Okanagan, and they were in the camp out here, and you know, you just kind of think about it, and if it would be a good challenge. I'm sure there's a lot of other communities that are probably up to that challenge, and I thought it would be a good thing to request.
Colleen?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, we're there. We've had the camps in our area as well, so I'm fully supportive.
Okay. Any other comments on this? Councilor McKay?
Da. That's yes in Russian.
I want a number.
Should we go 1,000 or 500?
1,000?
We're not as big as Nelson.
Through the chair, I think his video said 1,000. He is about, I think it was, I'm not 100% sure.
That's what Nelson did.
Nelson did 1,000, but they're a bigger community.
Are we okay with 1,000, Councilor Mamas?
You know, you have to remember as a taxpayer that our leader, our fearless leader, Justin, he sent a little wagon full of money and he sent some missiles over there, and he sent, which is all taxpayers' dollars as well. So, you know, I don't disagree with helping them out, but at the same time, you know, we still apply for grants to get what we need to get done. So it's not like it's a big deal. And I agree with Councilor McCabe, we're not as big as, so, you know, the other thing of it is that $1,000 is going to do exactly what? Just ask it.
Well, $1,000 from 182 communities is a lot of money. That's what I'm saying. So I mean, do we feel that this is necessary? I do. I think that what's happening over there is absolutely unbelievable. Concerning, because a lot of my relatives are still there. So yeah, so I'm in favor of $1,000 for this. I mean, it just shows that we have good faith in what we're trying to accomplish. Councilor Evans, go ahead.
Thank you. My opinion is we may be half the size of Nelson, but we want to have twice as much heart. And I'd like to see $1,000 put toward this. And, you know, the Red Cross is doing things like we got 3 folks from our church that went over to Poland to help refugees. They're over there right now feeding these people, and 4,000 people are arriving a day by train. On trains that should hold 1,000 people, 2,000 are arriving. And they're giving them soup that has been put together in dehydrated form, and they're hydrating it with hot water to feed these folks who are falling asleep in cornfields. And they get off the train and they're putting together makeshift shelters out of wood for them. And so I would really like to see us do this. Anything we can do helps.
All right. All right, let's put $1,000 in it then. I'm good with that. Yeah, it's pretty amazing. It's a humanitarian crisis, and I know there's a war going on, but it's about the people. And there's literally thousands of people every single day trying to seek refuge and safe haven. So I'd like to support it to $1,000. So recommendation of the district donate 1,000 to the Red Cross Ukraine humanitarian campaign. I have a mover, Councillor McCabe. I have a seconder, Councillor Anderson. Call a question. All those in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. All right, recommendation that council authorize an expense for $1,000 scholarship and two $500 scholarships to be awarded to the Eagle River Secondary School 2022 graduates who plan to continue their education at a post-secondary institution within 2 years of graduation and are current residents of Sycamoose. Okay, I need a mover on this. Councillor Evans, second by Councillor Malmus. This is something that we've supported every single year. Councillor McCabe, you want to speak on this?
Just want to check with Kelly. We're budgeted for that?
Yep, we have a great question. We budgeted an extra $5,000 a year for one-off donations. And every year, 2,000 of that goes to the secondary school. And now 1,000 will go to the Ukraine as well. So we're left with two.
We still got room. Okay, thanks, Kelly. All right, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. All right, planning report to mayor and district Sycamoose for information. Kelly, you want to comment on this?
Yes, I'll keep this very brief. This is a requirement under auditing standards that the auditors report to those charged with governance, which is council. It just says who's the audit team, when they will be performing their audit, which they already were here doing their field work. They'll be, you'll see Angie probably in April, who will present the financial statements. And they just remind you that what their responsibilities are in terms of detecting fraud, what materiality is for the municipality, what the risks are, which is revenue recognition and management override of controls, and what procedures that they do to make sure that those risks are mitigated. Materiality, just so you know, is $234,000 or 3% of expenses for the year. And then it just talks about the audit process and some other types of audit stuff, which is not necessarily extremely riveting, but yeah. And with that, I'll open it up for any questions.
Questions for council? All right, thanks for that report. Okay, then let's go into the next. Union of BC Municipalities response to the 2021 resolution. Jen, you want to comment on this?
Sure, through the chair. So in 2021, there were multiple resolutions from council that were submitted to PM. 3 were endorsed at the convention. And so that's the second attachment on the agenda. And that's just the response from the province for your reading pleasure. And if you'd like to pursue further action based on the response or write them a letter, you could direct staff to do so. They did not have time at the convention to consider the resolution regarding protecting established snowmobile recreation sites and trails. However, so they referred it to a committee. The committee has now endorsed it. It's now going to the province, and then the province will respond. So we'll get that response later on this year.
All right. Any comments or questions from council in regards to this? Go ahead, Gord.
Yeah, through the chair. Yeah, this is great news for the snowmobile industry for sure. Most of our trails that we groom are logging roads, and they're not they're rec sites and trails, but they're not, you know, they're not designated recreation trail. They're more designated as logging. So we were never recognized that way, and it's a huge, you know, like Sycamoose itself is almost like a 300, the amount of money that is brought into the community from snowmobiling is huge. Helps out the hotels and the staffing and the restaurants and all that. So this is really good for the community and all the communities in BC.
Good, thanks, Gord. Any other comments on this? All right. Okay, moving into the last thing, correspondence for information. Anyone want to comment on any of the letters that are here right now? Councillor Malmus. There was a letter from Craig Mitchell in regards to appreciation for Mr. Malmus. You want to comment on that?
No, I addressed that earlier, saying that staff was involved in that thing. And I did meet with Craig Mitchell about Airbnb. And basically he invited me out to his place. I talked with him and he's got a great operation at a great location. He's got the land, he's got the parking, he's got a small building, he lives there. So, there's no out of control. And I said, your situation is actually not the situation we're trying to fix. We just want you to participate in the business license. And I said, so, when we get this done, you can visit with staff. But my other comment has to do with, and it's a question actually to Scott. The CSRD new OCP and zoning bylaw in effect. Did they amend anything in that original document? Are you aware of, or did they just proceed with it as is, basically?
They didn't amend very much. Yeah.
Okay,
Did as is.
I didn't think they would, so. Thank you.
Councillor McCabe.
Yeah, the last piece of correspondence, the last bullet there, our friends and neighbors, electoral area E. Congratulations for about 8 years of work to get their official new OCP bylaws in effect. If you can bring that up, if you look at the map, area E goes right from Old Town Bay all the way up to almost Annecy Arm. And part of the new OCP is for development permit areas for protection from riparian area protection, lake protection, foreshore protection. So there's some new rules in place there now for the folks outside of our area.
Great, thanks, Councillor McCabe. Councillor Anderson.
There's correspondence here for reducing patio application red tape for BC's hospitality sector and economic recovery, and they're asking for support to loosen some of those fees and restrictions. So I think that for the next year or so, we should support this as well, because they still have a lot of ground to gain. Restaurants have been, the hospitality industry has been seriously hit by the pandemic. And I think this just gives them a little bit more space and a little bit more opportunity to recoup some of that cost. So I'd like to support this.
You want to put a resolution on it?
No one else has anything to say?
I'd second that. So
Oh, okay. Jen, can you hit me with a resolution?
Are we looking for a letter of support? So I'm just reading through the letter
I
again.
think it's just a letter of support.
Sure, certainly, yeah.
That's a letter of support. Councillor Malmus, go ahead.
I hate to say this, but with our 0 setback and OCP, all the businesses on Main Street put a big patio in front. And so we're already supporting, like, restricting them at all. We're fill it in, get rid of that sidewalk to the building.
Sure, put tables, sorry.
So we're already on this track. So we send a letter of support to these people, yes, but we're already doing it.
Yeah, I agree. We do it and we have, some easy, we don't have a lot of restrictions with ours, like for example, I think the restaurant next door, the Mexican food place, put out a patio front and it's fine. And I think we support them continuing to do that. This is a letter of support that we support the idea. We support it here in our community, so.
Yeah, so staff, are you okay with sending out a letter?
Sure.
Good. Okay, so I'm going to call the question on the resolution and all those in favor?
There's no resolution. It's a
In favor,
support.
You moved and Gord seconded that a letter.
Oh, I thought we were just writing a letter of support. Okay, sorry.
Sorry, direct staff to prepare a letter of support.
Oh, great.
All right, that's carried. Anything else on any of the correspondence?
Yeah, see, that took you to 6:52. That was cheating.
I don't.
Good. Anybody else? All right. Okay, that's pretty much it. Okay, so recommendation at the regular council meeting for March 23rd, 2022 be adjourned at 6:50.
49.
By Counselor Malmas, second by Counselor Evans. All in favor? Carried. Thank you in the gallery for joining us today. All the people online.